Okay, today is a fun one because today Elon Musk is trying to full scale buy out Twitter, causing employees and media alike to lose their minds, while violating SEC guidelines and rules and proposing numerous, often ridiculous changes to the platform in the process. Beyond the headlines and the clickbait, let's look at what we really know and everything that has happened thus far. Here's a brief timeline before we really get started. On January 31st, 2022, Elon Musk, the billionaire behind Tesla and SpaceX, quietly began accumulating shares of the social media giant known as Twitter. Elon Musk, for those that don't know, is a long-standing and highly prominent user on the platform, with over 81 million followers at this point in time. In the past, Elon Musk has been extremely vocal about his disagreements with regards to how the company is run, and he has even proposed his own intention to build a direct competitor to the platform, and used it for everything from memes to flat-out cryptocurrency price manipulation at times. Love him or hate him, he is quite obviously an extremely influential figure in Twitter's ecosystem. January 31st, 2022, Musk begins buying shares on the public market and continues this behavioral pattern with hundreds of thousands, even millions of shares per day until he acquires over 73 million shares total, roughly 9.1% of the entire company. This is no small thing, and upon disclosure, his legion of retail investor fans began to buy stock as well. The amount of buying pressure, the same kind Elon Musk has leveraged in the past in other asset classes, inexorably leads to a rise in price, a fact I believe that Musk is distinctly familiar with, even counting on, perhaps, and caused the share price to spike by over 20% in just a few hours. That was just the beginning, because what followed is a clown car fiasco of media reporting, apparent SEC violations, monumental corporate shakeups, and ultimately a bear hug. Bear hug being a stock term for hostile takeover slash buyout offer, but I'll explain that later on. Let's look a little more closely at how he acquired these shares, because there's a growing movement calling for punishment by the SEC against Elon Musk, alleging that he has violated their guidelines in a deliberate and profit-motivated way. First things first, we need to understand how the SEC tracks and catalogs massive equity purchases. The simple way to describe all this is that whenever you buy more than 5% of a publicly traded company at that scale, you need to file a form, either called 13D or 13G. These forms are required to be filed within 10 days of the trading date, not the settlement date of that purchase. And generally speaking, a 13G form is used by investors who have no plans to push for dramatic changes at the company, also called a passive investment strategy, while a 13D form is filed by investors who may very well attempt to leverage their position further, and might even push to acquire more stake in the company over time. Elon Musk, on March 14th, 2022, filed a Form 13G. This indicated a passive investment in the company, which then led directly to a share price increase, a dramatic one at that. Legions of fans perceived this as a financial indicator for them and began to buy up stake in the company on the public market, as Elon Musk himself simultaneously went on a tweet rampage about all the changes he may potentially make at the company. That's the best part, it really is, the media freakout. Apparently, employees of Twitter were stressed out because Musk's diehard approach to free speech advocacy would make it difficult for them to moderate content effectively. And knowing that the corporate structure of Twitter was under immense and stressful pressure was and is fantastic. Anyways, having acquired a 9.1% stake in the company over the span of multiple months, Elon Musk was required to disclose that position to the SEC. He didn't. Precisely speaking, Elon Musk should have disclosed that his position has exceeded 5% on or around the 24th of May, but instead, he disclosed that information 10 days later on the 4th of April. This had one very key effect, and that effect was a delay in the number of retail investors piling on board as a result, which would have immediately spiked the open market share price. This one simple, very deliberate in my opinion, 10-day lapse in reporting allowed Elon Musk to save something like $150 million in open market cost, and the relative fees for violating the 13G form submission are peanuts in comparison. Basically, Elon Musk snubbed the SEC, saved himself a ton of money in the process, got even more shares faster, and then leveraged his position into a prominent stake in the company all at the same time. Things were going well for him. Next up came the board seat U-turn, as I like to call it. Parag Agrawal, Twitter's current CEO in the wake of Jack Dorsey stepping down, tweeted out the following on April 5th, 2022. Quote, "I'm excited to share that we're appointing Elon Musk to our board. Through conversations with Elon in recent weeks, it became clear to us that he would bring great value to our board. He's both a passionate believer and intense critic of the service, which is exactly what we need on Twitter and in the boardroom to make us stronger in the long term. Welcome, Elon." End quote. Suffice it to say, the media went insane reporting on all this, And here's the SEC document filed by Twitter announcing Elon Musk would be officially on the board as a Class 2 director. 5 days later, on April 10th, Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal tweeted again, quote, "Elon has decided not to join our board. I sent a brief note to the company sharing with you all here," end quote. The statement goes on to discuss how Elon Musk would have been appointed on the 9th of April, that's important, but that he had corresponded with them and declined the position while simultaneously claiming that this is for the best, even though Twitter were the ones who excitedly, I might add, appointed him to their board and filed the paperwork, which he then declined. In the span of less than 1 week, Elon Musk had announced his monumental stake in the company, spiked the share price with his legion of fans, joined the board of directors, but actually no, he didn't join the board, and the media was fixating on all of it. However, something else was happening behind the scenes, and the dates are very, very interesting. On April 9th, the same day that Elon Musk was allegedly going to officially join the board of directors at Twitter, his SEC filing was updated. The update may seem small to some, but it isn't, because the previously completed Form 13G was modified to become a 13D. This comes with far less restrictions overall, and no longer stood in the way of Elon Musk buying additional shares on the open market. In true Elon style, he was also posting a series of critical messages regarding Twitter itself over the weekend, which he later deleted, but on the same day that he was supposed to join the board, he declines and updates SEC forms to allow him additional leverage and attack vectors. 3 days later, the form gets modified again, this time outlining a full-scale buyout of Twitter, 100% of the share count, $52.40 per share, significantly above market price, as well as a 54% above market price premium at closing on January 28, 2022. And the very next day, on Twitter itself, Elon Musk revealed all of this to his legion of fans. Here's where we need a bit of clarification. This is a hostile takeover. Not because it is hostile in any literal sense of the word, but because he is proposing a buyout that the current administration are obviously not on board with, and he is using the open market to leverage that buyout. More specifically, this is called a bear hug, when you announce a buyout intention higher than the current market price because you know that certain shareholders and corporate leaders may be opposed to the prospect. It's not always successful, but it's a sort of financial battle in the making. This also begins to make much more sense when we consider the statement made by Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, which reads, quote, "There will be distractions ahead, but our goals and priorities remain unchanged. The decisions we make and how we execute is in our hands, no one else's. Let's tune out the noise and stay focused on the work and what we're building," end quote. This makes infinitely more sense when we realize that Musk was positioning himself for a hostile takeover and a bear hug at that point in time. Acquiring Twitter at this price, full scale, would take the company private. It would, but Elon Musk has been sanctioned by the SEC in the past after tweeting that he would take Tesla private and had funding secured because he didn't have the funding. Ultimately, he was forced to step down as chairman of Tesla after this and pay $40 million in penalties by the SEC as a result. That has no actual bearing on the circumstances surrounding Twitter per se today, but Elon Musk does not have a spotless track record on the subject. If we examine the language of his most recent filing, however, we get some interesting perspective on how things might unfold. Correspondence between Elon Musk and Twitter chairman Brett Taylor can be seen in Exhibit B, reading as follows, quote, "I invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe, and I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. However, since making my investment, I now realize the company will neither thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form. Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. As a result, I am offering to buy 100% of Twitter for $54.20 per share in cash, a 54% premium over the day before I began investing in Twitter, and a 38% premium over the day before my investment was publicly announced. My offer is my best and final offer, and if it is not accepted, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. Twitter has extraordinary potential. I will unlock it," end quote. This is extremely important for one key reason. Elon Musk is stating that he very well may sell 9.1% of the company on the open market should they decline the offer. A critical investor at this scale, especially one with the kind of social media power and fan presence that Elon Musk has, would be catastrophic for Twitter's current share price. Not only would he sell, but other retail investors who only purchased the stock initially with an idea that he himself would be at the helm would also sell, and this could then spiral into a serious downturn for actual Twitter investors. Further down in the same exhibit, we get an audio transcript which has a section that reads, quote, "Best and final. I am not playing the back and forth game. I have moved straight to the end. It's a high price and your shareholders will love it. If the deal doesn't work, given that I don't have confidence in management, nor do I believe I can drive the necessary change in the public market, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. This is not a threat, it's simply not a good investment without the changes that need to be made, and those changes won't happen without taking the company private. End quote. He can say this is not a threat all he wants, but the reality is he acquired 9.1% of the company in the span of just a couple months. He then obfuscated his actual intention within the SEC documents, amending them to allow him better attack vectors in the future, on the exact same day that he declined a board seat, announcing a hostile takeover, bear hug actually, just 3 days later. In my opinion, if it's not a threat, what is it? In my opinion, and please be aware, this is exactly that, my opinion based on what I know about corporate buyouts and what I've learned over the years, Elon Musk has positioned himself to make it impossible for Twitter to say no, or at least highly unlikely. Publicly traded companies have an obligation to act in the best interest of the shareholders, hence Twitter actively trying to get Elon Musk to join their board, even going so far as to openly acknowledge this publicly. And if someone would make investors a great deal of money, or someone or something, they are more often than not obligated to do that thing. That thing, and that someone in this particular case, is a buyout by Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has used a two-part strategy to drive up the share price while still offering a premium over the current market. His initial stake acquisition spiked the price, the announcement especially, but also the act of him buying those shares, with the help of his fans, obviously, that was a huge important factor, and his buyout announcement also had an impact, again with the help of his fans, while a rejection of that offer and a subsequent sale of 9.1% of the company, or any fraction of that, which he was very careful to say was possible but not explicitly threaten or harp on, would cost everyone invested in the company right now a great deal of money. My suspicion is that Twitter does not want to succumb to this buyout at all. They most likely fundamentally, politically, ideologically, and egotistically abhor the reality or possibility of Elon Musk owning the platform privately. They hate that idea. But they are forced to consider it, because legally they must prioritize the shareholders, not their politics. If they were to reject this offer without proper diligence, they could and probably would be sued. And if the offer is just too good to pass up, they're not even really able to say no. Honestly, I have no idea what will happen, but Elon Musk has created entertainment, media frenzy, and interesting content with his attack on Twitter, to say the very least, and it's all hilarious to watch. Hopefully the people running that company are going to get a good amount of stress out of this. They absolutely deserve it. But anyways, that's it. If you want to support, check out the links down below. I'm trying to work on branching away from ad revenue completely, if possible, so please consider Locals or Patreon. There are a few more links as well, a YouTube alternative, another YouTuber to check out, merchandise, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night. Also, Elon, if you see this, unban me on Twitter. Thank you. Bye.